No. It can't break through this.
They say resist is futile. That individual is out of style. It's a simulation, not a but I know less about
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hello and good evening and Happy New Year! Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2 Episode 1 titled The Child is over, and it has been since 1988. But we're just getting started here in 2025 for our breakdown and podcast all about it here on Live Long and Podcast. I'm Dave Mader, and we're back, guys. We took a bit of hiatus, but we're ready to start up again. And we got a great panel to talk all about this episode. Coming up first, we got the great Ashley Millard.
Hello.
Hello, glad to have you with us. We've got, of course, my love, my wife. We have Jane Mader.
Hello.
Hello. And coming in, Deanna Troy herself. It's Heather Narduzzi.
Hello. My empathic senses tell me this is going to be an excellent episode.
I think your senses might be on point for once, Deanna. They're a bit hit and miss, you know. But it's we're glad
leave
to be
Deanna
back.
alone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Deanna had a moment in this episode. She had some experiences, and we're gonna talk all about it. But yeah, like this was better than I remember it. I would say overall. This is also, well, of course, the beginning of season 2. We have introduction of Dr. Pulaski as Dr. Crusher, no longer here, without too much explanation other than she's at Starfleet Medical. Of course, off camera, there was a whole thing with her and Rick Berman and the producers, and that all fell apart, and she chose to leave the show. And they brought in the Dr. Pulaski character. And Whoopi Goldberg also joins this show in the season, not as a regular, but as a recurring guest star as Guinan, which, you know, like looking back on this was, I thought, quite. I don't know. I think maybe we've lost some of like the star power that Whoopi Goldberg had at the time. She was like a major movie star.
No way. I gasped when she came on screen at first. I didn't even remember that this was her first time because I super love Guinan. And I wrote in my notes, Guinan looks luminous in purple. And then the second appearance of her, I realized it was, in fact, her first episode of Star Trek ever. And she was like arguably the biggest movie star in the world at that time.
Yeah, she was friends with LeVar Burton, and when she found out that he was cast on Star Trek, she kept bugging him to get her on it, and he would tell the producers that they didn't believe him. So they didn't reach out to her. And then I guess there was she ran into someone somewhere and mentioned it, and then they went, wait, you really want to be on that? They thought LeVar was kidding.
Right. You know, and so they create this character. We get this whole new set of 10 Forward as well in this episode and for the rest of the show. So there's a lot of like kind of a first and kind of a shakeup of the show in this second season. You know, of course, Dr. Crusher will be back. Everybody, don't worry. You know, but you know, we're gonna go through all that and yeah, we'll talk about the plot itself. Of course, this is a live stream here, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We got Sam with us.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Of course, Norman with us here. Mysterious aliens are all Tinkerbell, I guess. LOL.
I guess so.
I suppose they And yeah, this was. It was Morris Hurley that got Gates McFadden out apparently. Who was the head writer?
I don't think it was her choice to leave.
It was his. It was
I
hers,
believe she was just written off the show.
Wow.
And then
I think that's what I have read as well.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of backlash, and that's why they brought her back for season 3. And like to the point where the cast were like, bring her back or we're not doing the show anymore.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart in particular, I think, really fought for her.
Yeah.
And so, and like, I like the Dr. Pulaski character as well, although, I prefer Dr. Crusher, and she's part of this crew. But if she hadn't come back, it would have been interesting how we would have thought of her character if it had only stood on season 1. Anyway, with all that said,
honestly, maybe this is shallow, but I feel that they did Dr. Pulaski so dirty with that hairdo. She's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And they put this terrible hairdo on her. And I know that was the fashion of the day, but like Blanche Devereaux wore that. Rue McClanahan had a similar hairdo and she looked super sexy. So they did it wrong.
They also gave her a personality to match the hairdo.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she definitely has like this old lady thing. And I always thought that like Dr. Pulaski was much older. Maybe she is, but Diana Muldaur, who plays her, I looked her up. She's only 50 years old at the time she's playing this role. But when I was
playing
watching,
like Bones, though, right? An old grumpy doctor.
50 in the 80s was like 75 now.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely Well, of course,
I was
Patrick
thinking
Stewart
that while
only
I was
48.
watching it. Like, that's it. Like, put a Real Housewives wig on her and she'd blend right in today. She's only 50. She still looked great.
She's young.
Yeah.
Right.
People say you're very old.
Well, hey, what are you going to do? Anyway, let's get into it. We start off with a captain's log as we see another ship alongside the Enterprise. I don't know if we get the name of the ship. It doesn't matter. I think it's the ship.
The Repulse.
The Repulse that's bringing Dr. Pulaski aboard, presumably.
What kind of ship is that, Dave?
Excelsior class.
Okay.
As we see that, we'll see that ship. We'll see this like stock footage of the Excelsior class throughout the Next Generation. Like almost every time the Enterprise meets up with another ship, another Federation Starfleet ship, throughout the show, it will always be this ship, almost always. And it's from like the original series era, so I think it's to imply it's an older ship compared to the Galaxy class Enterprise.
I like the design of it though.
I do too. The Excelsior is one of my favorite designs. It's the Enterprise B was also Excelsior class. And
it looks nice. That's the first shot that we see. And I find they went to a lot of trouble to light it really nicely and have the two ships next to each other. Like, it looked impressive.
Also, did they like upconvert these? Did they make these? Because they did that with some stuff with Deep Space Nine, right? Did they do it for the Blu-rays?
They did do Blu-ray remastering for Next Gen and for
I
original
think
series.
This is the first time I've watched the remaster of this episode on my 4K TV because it stood out to me. This scene in particular, I thought it looks really modern compared to what I remember watching just when I would see it on TV.
I thought that as well, Ashley. And then when they cut to the interior and there was like a close-up of Worf, it looked super grainy.
Yeah, like I think they remastered a lot of the in space and the ship shots and stuff, even some of the stuff in here. But then you get the bridge scenes, and I went, that's what I remember watching on my tube TV in the 90s.
I will point out some things like that from the interior shots, but just to, if we look here, there's an opening shot here in the shuttle bay, and we actually see the nacelles of the other ship through the open space force field, which I doubt was in the original version of this, in the 80s. Maybe it was, but...
and the crewman on the second level there, that looked a little newish. Like, you don't normally see that. Like the two guys in red up there.
I like to know what they're doing. What is actually their job up there? But it's they seem to be very official. Anyway, a couple other firsts in this episode. We see Worf is now in the yellow and the gold. He's now chief of security officially, taking over from Tasha Yar. We'll also see Geordie LaForge is now is also in gold, and he is now promoted to full lieutenant. in this episode. He'll pop up here in a minute.
I love that. Oh, I'll say it when we get there. I don't want to spoil any scenes coming up.
Oh, and
beard. The beard.
Riker has the beard now. So
We all approve of the beard. Wonderful, Riker.
Yes.
Well done.
Well, he's so much better looking, I think, with the beard. But hey.
I mean, he's always good looking, but
Sure.
the beard adds a little something.
Yeah,
It
I
does.
don't know. It just gives him this distinguished thing. I don't know. He's obviously kept the beard in his personal life, Jonathan Frakes, so he clearly likes it as well. Apparently, he only grew it in between seasons, and with the intention of shaving it off. And then the producers were like, "No, keep it. We like it on you." So, that's how that came about.
Yeah, no doubt. The producers were like, "So, what are you doing later, Frakes? Like, just look really good. I don't know what it is."
Additionally, Wesley Crusher as the acting ensign has been given a new outfit here. With I think this is meant to be an official Starfleet get up, although he's the only one who wears it. And he also has his own unique comm badge that has.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Doesn't have a gold backer; it has a silver backer. So it's
Neat. I didn't
which also
notice that.
makes him a little different here. But yeah, and he's
And
totally
he's
wearing
got like the swoopy Starfleet kind of helmet hair going on.
right.
Love
He's
it.
emulating Riker here.
Yes.
100%.
And when do they get rid of the jumpsuits? Because Riker's looking like a little. It looks really unflattering on him right now. Like when did the?
Season
it
3? They
So we have a whole other season of the jumpsuits. Eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and I've read, and I'm sure you all have as well, that those jumpsuits gave them terrible back problems because they pull on you in all
Yeah.
kinds of different ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick
Yeah.
Stewart said he was gonna his chiropractor was gonna sue them or something like that. That uniform later reappeared in Lower Decks and Prodigy. Oh, like the
Yeah, no problem for them because they don't have human bodies to put the onesie on.
Yeah, cartoons can wear them easier.
Yeah.
Anyway, of course, we see Geordi LaForge here now in gold, now the chief engineer, which, there was no indication of that at the end of season 1, but it makes sense that, Wesley Crusher becomes more of like the permanent helmsman of the ship. And they didn't have a chief engineer character, so.
I mean, they did.
Well, they did, but not one of the
He
main
was only
cast.
he was only in a few episodes. It's a wild jump from helmsman to chief engineer, though.
Kind of, yeah. Like I think, presumably he has an engineering degree, and like that gives him the ability and a pilot's license. So he's, but
It's a jump.
It's yeah. Like I think if you're in the military, it's not as much of a jump as we might think it is. But but anyway, there was no indication he was headed that way, and he kind of stays in. We'll find out that later on he becomes a Commodore and he becomes the head of like the Fleet Museum. So this is the career path he will stay on. Pretty much.
Maybe it's the Starfleet equivalent of when someone has a baby and then the next season the baby's like 8 because you can't do any storylines with the baby.
Yeah.
So
Like on-
they
like
couldn't
on
do
soap
anything else with
operas?
them as a helmsman. They bump him right up to chief engineer.
Exactly. Well, so the plot of this episode is that the Enterprise is taking these dangerous virus samples, the plasma plague. They have to take it to a particular planet where there's some kind of outbreak, and they need to transport. So Geordi's designed these little, hexagonal devices to store the different diseases and like samples that they're going to be transporting. Of course, Riker comes in with a tremendous over-the-chair.
Absolutely tremendous.
Is this a first, you think?
I think we did it in season 1, but
Yeah?
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, but I wrote down Riker maneuver right out the gate. Oh my God. Then he did a backwards dismount.
Yes, the reverse.
I don't remember
Riker.
that. The Riker D maneuver. Anyway,
yeah.
It's amazing. I love him. Well
That's
done.
great. And so they kind of like just acknowledge that Geordi's the new chief engineer. Chief engineer, I like the sounds of that. And it's, and then Geordi kind of back to the business of what they're talking about. That they're going. There's even this hologram, which was this part of the original episode.
Yeah, that looked really good. Like,
Yeah. I
Doesn't
don't
look like
remember Riker's
1980s.
eyes being as blue as they were in this episode either. Like they're so blue, and I don't remember that. That's why I was like, am I watching an alternate Have they added things?
Did
Chief
they
engineer for more than
imblue
one
him
episode.
more in the remaster?
I don't know.
There were hints he would be an engineering in season 1. I don't recall that, Murph. But and hardly COVID pandemics standards. Anyway, so they got the whole thing. He's designed this contraption to contain all the samples, and they're going to be transporting it. And then they're on their way. They got this new doctor coming along. So I didn't get the shot of the reverse Riker maneuver. I apologize.
It's burned into my brain forever. It's
Yeah.
okay.
So we see the little Tinkerbell icon. I think we maybe saw this in the very opening shot, but
It
this
was
is
in the opening shot. Yeah.
Yeah, the entity that will come to be known as Ian in this episode is, kind of following along the Enterprise and kind of flies inside the ship, which Data detects as a power surge that him and Geordi can't quite figure out right away. So they kind of say, okay, well, we'll have a look, see what's up later, but they don't really know what to make of it at the time. As it works its way into the ship and through the various decks, no one quite sees it. There's even this part where it hides up in this part of the turbolift or the corridor, and get an interesting camera angle here, like the fishbowl lens.
There's a few good camera angles in this episode. I pointed them out to Kevin.
Yeah, directed by Rob Bowman.
He was having fun with some camera angles in this episode.
Yeah, I liked it. And so, yeah, they I don't know, they almost sense the Tinkerbell, but then it goes away into the ceiling.
My favorite is that they sense something or hear something or the light or something, and they're like, we both of them are like, there must have been, and then they just kind of go, and continue on with their day. Like they're out in space where stuff has happened to the ship before, and they're just like, whatever.
They're lower deckers. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. They're like, whatever, not our problem. Captain will tell us if we have to do something about it. So it goes into this guy's quarters, Mr. Chesthair.
Oh, this is a great shot.
And I guess they figured you can't do much with this guy. So, with this intent. So, but I want to see the version of the episode where, I don't know, maybe he impregnates this guy.
This guy has the Tinkerbell baby? I mean,
Yeah.
Progressive.
That would be a tactile experience to
Well,
hand across that dress.
We do end up seeing that episode. We just have to wait a few years and for Enterprise to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like
Oh.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jr. maybe, or something along those lines. But moves on from Mr. Chesthair. Then it goes into Deanna Troy's quarters, up the blanket, down the bed, and
What is she wearing to sleep in? What is this? Why does it have
looks-
cold shoulders?
yeah.
Because she's going clubbing as soon as she wakes up. She's in full hair and makeup,
This
like
seems
queen.
like a terrible outfit to sleep in.
Yeah, good point. I didn't.
Maybe
Pick up on
it
that.
doubles as a fishnet of some sort.
It does have holes in it, and so kind of all throughout it. So I don't know. We don't get a great shot of it otherwise here, but she senses something has happened, and so she's that's the teaser for the episode. As now I guess I'm mostly good with this plot line of her having the baby and everything that goes on with it, but does it have to go up through the blanket and into her privates like this? Is my criticism, I guess. But
Yes, Star Trek: The Next Generation is nothing if not completely inappropriate with its female characters.
well, they did a great job there, in that respect, I suppose. It's her counselor's garb, which is unique, just like Mick Lamota's green suit. I suspect he sleeps in the suit too. Maybe the counselors, that's how they roll. They're always ready for business.
I don't know if all counselors are like that. I don't think Esri was like that. She was a little more shy than Deanna is. I think that's just Deanna's personality.
True.
She did love a cold shoulder.
We get our title card for the episode. The child, of course, the Dinah Muldaur and Whoopi Goldberg in this episode. Now, Dinah Muldaur will, even though she's in every episode pretty much of this season, she will always be credited as a special appearance, not as she's never in the credits of the show throughout the whole thing. Of course, Whoopi
I
Goldberg's
wonder if they did that so they could pay her less or something.
Probably.
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 Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. It's probably
Knowing what
exactly-
we know now about Star Trek behind the scenes in this era, that's likely the
Oh,
reason.
yeah. They were all being paid a lot less than they should have been paid for being on a show like this at the time.
Yeah.
Of course, they make it back in residuals and the fame, and I get, so I don't know. There's kind of a trade off, but that it's not good practice, but it's what happened at the time.
It's the 80s.
It's the 80s. We didn't know, and so
Some of us.
This is so grainy they look like they're sparkling.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is
yeah.
a lot of film grain here. I think that this is where they're trying to figure out where the doctor is, where Dr. Pulaski is. Yeah. Well, go find that doctor. Because Captain Picard very obsessed with protocol. You're supposed to come see the captain. When you come
I
aboard.
didn't like this scene. What if it had been a sea-level man coming on board? I thought like you hired this chief medical officer and you're treated like an ensign coming on board. I hated it. I just thought it was bad management on Picard's. So just to anyway.
That's how Picard rolls. He's all about the formalities. So
I don't know.
although Dr. Pulaski totally doesn't care. So, you could take that for what it is. So they send Data to go, or no, he's going to go find the doctor. And Worf's like, not a good way to meet your new captain. And they all kind of make an eyes. Then we see, there's this scene here with Captain Picard and Wesley in the turbolift, where, it's kind of about Wesley leaving. Because his mother's gone now, he's going to be leaving the ship to join her at Starfleet Medical. And there's kind of this solemn thing here, because Picard doesn't want him to go, clearly. Picard's already very much in this surrogate father role for Wesley.
Is that how you read that scene? I thought it was so cold. Wesley just wants Picard's approval, and Picard is like, well, I hear you're leaving. Okay.
I can relate.
Also, I understand why he's still on the ship, because they weren't kicking him off the show. But why is he still on the ship? Why would he not have left?
Why would he have gone right away
with his mother? It makes no sense. It's not like he's there as a commissioned officer or something. He's literally an acting ensign who is only on the bridge because Picard has allowed him to be on the bridge and given him special permissions. Why wouldn't he have left with his mother? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they don't give us any explanation for that whatsoever. I guess the most plausible thing they could come up with is maybe he had an exam to write or something, but seems like you could do that anywhere. So anyway, that's we don't really know how long Dr. Crusher's been gone either, and
no.
It's all kind of yada yada very quickly here.
I don't believe she's really at Starfleet Medical. I think she's in Section 31 for a year.
Maybe so. I think you might be right. Anyway, so then they keep walking together towards 10 Forward, and he says to Wesley, that's what Starfleet is. You go from assignment to assignment. You never know where you're going to be next. But he says that's true, Captain. But the Enterprise is not just a regular ship, and Picard agrees to that. Anyway, then we go to 10 Forward. We get the first shot of this set. We get Whoopi Goldberg for the first time as Guinan here, who doesn't say anything in her first moments. She has no lines. She just points to Dr. Pulaski sitting over there at the. I love this smile here from her.
She's looking straight at the camera.
Yeah,
she is so happy.
She's
just
Star
so
Trek.
happy to be on Star Trek.
Yeah. Imagine just like little wink to the camera.
They made it.
Norman thinking Beverly's headed to Starfleet Manor. One has argued that considering Jack Crusher looks more in his 30s in Picard season 3, she was giving birth to Jack in secret. Maybe Jack Crusher.
And then just left him on Earth and came back to the Enterprise for 6 years.
Maybe they put him in stasis.
He was with Section 31. That's where she left him.
Anyway, Picard shows up at Dr. Pulaski, who's sitting there with Diana Troy, and he's like, I don't know what assignment you came from, Pulaski, but on the Enterprise, you come and kiss the ring, when you come on board.
Ridiculous.
And then he's in the middle of speaking to her, and she just gets up and interrupts him. No. This is shut your mouth. This is the captain. Terrible first entrance for this character. She's so rude.
Yeah, like I think that maybe it's intentional that they want there to be sort of this friction between Picard and her right from the beginning, and it does carry through the rest of the season. Like they're always kind of at odds.
I think they wanted her to be a Bones character and just failed miserably at writing that.
Yeah, it doesn't. She doesn't have that personality to kind of make it work, right? Like I think that it's just, you know, she was friends with Gene Roddenberry apparently, you know, off camera, and like it's partly probably how she got this role. And she had been on two
she was
episodes
in the original series
twice as two different characters.
Right.
You know, so you know, going back to all that, but you know, so it's kind of like this weird.
Yeah, they have her come in and be rude to Picard and not following protocol, and then super rude and dismissive of Data as well. So if they wanted fans to like this character, they really started it off wrong.
She's also a terrible doctor, because there's more than one time where she asks a question that I go, oh, if you're on the flagship of the Federation, you should be a better doctor than that. How do you not know whether betazoids have painful births or not? Like, you're a doctor.
You know what's also kind of crazy to me about it is that I think that like Pulaski has a higher episode count than Tasha Yar does, but like they brought Tasha Yar back quite a few times after, you know, she was killed off the show, as in Sela or in the alternate versions or in All Good Things. They never bring this character back at all. Like not even the finale, nothing, right? Like it's where they, you know, they could have wrote her into some kind of a story.
Anything in Lower Decks?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing at all. No.
Yeah, she's so forgotten in some ways, but you know, it's like more so than other characters. Like Wesley Crusher leaves the show, and he'll come back for like a random episode, you know, eventually. So it's kind of strange to me, but also not. When you find out that, you know, she didn't really get along with the cast off camera either. So
they brought back the goo that killed Tasha Yar and won't bring back Pulaski.
Right. Yeah, skin of evil. Anyway, so she says, "Sit down, Captain. We got to talk." And we see this very, you know, Deanna Troi is very disturbed, upset, not herself. Got quite the look on her face as we get this news, and you know, we go to a briefing here in the conference room where we have no time for formal introductions. We'll get to that later with Dr. Pulaski. Deanna Troi is pregnant.
So how do you guys think she was playing that? Like, what? I don't really like how she was acting there, but what do you guys think? Like,
why did she sit so far down the table?
Yeah,
pregnancies. It's not like it's not like she's contagious.
Is she a leper?
There's almost like this shame feeling here in this scene.
Yeah,
like that she's like being she's self ostracizing herself or whatever, or like I guess
like
she
teenage, you know, pregnancy. Like I don't know, I didn't like it. Like
Raker's reaction is everything in this scene.
I agree with that.
I think I have a quote here.
It's jealousy.
I don't mean to be indelicate, but who's the father?
Also, sir, you are my ex, and how dare you question me about my Tinkerbell lightbulb pregnancy in that tone in my conference room right now? Sir.
You were
it's
very
not
indelicate.
Yours. Don't worry about it.
Listen, ex, sure. They were still boning the entire time.
They totally were. No,
come
you're
on.
right.
So that is pure jealousy.
Yeah, it's and he even when he shows up for the birth and all that, you know, it's like a whole thing, right? You know, but anyway, so there's kind of this whole discussion here where, you know, it's explained that the baby doesn't have like a genetic father, that the baby is kind of like a clone of Deanna in some ways, but a boy instead, half betazoid, half human, and is growing very fast. Will be born in 36 hours, I think we're told. From the time the time of this meeting, and which is not normal for betazoids. And that,
I think it's interesting that there was absolutely nothing of like the alien DNA or anything. Like that the entity is still there, obviously, because it's growing and the Ian eventually remembers who he is and all that stuff. But that it's able to completely change its DNA into like a mirror of Deanna's.
Maybe it doesn't have DNA, it's just energy, you know? Maybe.
I suppose, but would there not be a signature of that? Like if Data was able to notice it come onto the ship.
But would
is
you
it
be able to
is it able to hide that?
What if Q was in a body? Would you be able to tell? I don't know.
Well, here's a theory. Like, I think that this unique radiation that it emits, which comes back later in the episode, could be what you would detect. But since it's so rare, they don't normally scan for it or something. So it's kind of indetectable. Anyway, so we see here that there's kind of this whole conversation happening around Deanna, where Worf is like, "We need to abort this fetus right now. There's an alien's gonna pop out and kill us all."
This is my This was what I was going to mention earlier. My favorite thing, the first thing Worf does as the brand new chief engineer is to say, "Let's kill a baby."
Yes,
It's such classic Worf.
This is the beginning of all of his suggestions about
we don't know what this is.
Worf.
Kill it.
Let's fire a torpedo at everything. You know, Norman pointing out at least Troy gets to make her choice because she's like, "No, I'm having this baby," and Picard's like, "Okay,
good."
You know,
Yep,
conversation is over. Worf doesn't like it. He wants to. We'll come back to that with him. But you know, yeah, there's almost this thing where like maybe the baby's kind of like communicating with Deanna, you know, from, you know, sort of subconsciously, and you know, there's kind of this moment here where
the baby is also half Beta Z, so
right.
Potentially they can hear each other's thoughts.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do they hear each other's thoughts in the womb, Beta Zs? It's an interesting question.
Well, a baby wouldn't have language. I guess that's the only thing, right? So you could maybe
I
communicate
suppose,
emotions.
but feelings.
But
You
emotion,
would feel.
yeah, you still
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe on some level probably, but not maybe a less sophisticated form. And you know, the baby's only this big or whatever at this point, right? So it's hard to say how much brain development. But anyway, Troy's having the baby. She don't care. And this is going to happen. So Picard's like, "Yep, it's over. Discussion is adjourned, and we're moving on." So then in the next scene, I guess this is maybe the next day, Troy shows up in her maternity wear.
The maternity
more
robe,
like pajamas.
matching headpiece. Yeah, it does look more like pajamas, but it's the same color blue as her famous like asymmetrical blue dress. You know. Yeah, love it. And her hairpiece matches, and they've got her in peach lipstick for a softer, more maternal look.
Yes, and her shoes match the outfit color entirely. Because
They
in
do.
the future, your entire outfit has to just be the same color.
I appreciate matching
that's
colors. Just for the record.
We know you do. We know you do, Dave. This is why you like it dressing the way you do, because you grew up on Star Trek.
It's true. You're not wrong. Anyway, so then they arrive at the planet where they meet up with this Lieutenant Commander Hester Delt, as played by Seymour Castle, who's like this guy who's in charge of all like the dangerous plasma plague specimens. I love this guy in this episode. He like his personality, he's a lot of fun. He played Sam in Dick Tracy, which was a movie I watched a lot when I was a kid. Which Sam was like kind of Dick Tracy's right hand man in the movie. Jane, we still haven't watched that together, you know?
No, we haven't.
As soon as he was on the screen, I had to go to his IMDb to see what I knew him from, and knew as soon as I scrolled down and saw Dick Tracy, I was like, "Oh, of course."
Yeah, he was also like The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou and like other things as well. But you know, good actor. Anyway, and so again, like Picard, he was like, "Hey, the Enterprise is here. Good. Okay. Well, we got a bunch of you know, dangerous samples here." And he's like, "Hey, who am I talking to?" He's like, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "I'm the Lieutenant Commander Lester Holt or whatever." No, not Lester Holt. That's
this guy was a little rude
Hester
to Picard too. I feel like everyone on this episode needs to learn how to talk to a captain.
Well, Captain Picard would agree with you. But these science officers don't care, I guess. These medical people, they're more concerned with their germs and their medical specimens. Anyway, so he wants to come up and inspect what Geordi's created before he'll allow anything to be beamed up. Very dangerous what they're dealing with in the episode. And so, I don't know. He's got a fun personality and a good delivery as well. So then we got a transition here as he's inspecting the the module, he's building it out of, and just kind of a reinforced dialogue about how dangerous this stuff is. So Picard sends
This
Data
is the
down.
other camera shot I was thinking of. Go back. This one. Data has a whole conversation with him through I was like, I literally said it to Kevin. I'm like, what a shot. I don't think we ever see this again in any episode.
Shout out to Rob Bowman, the director. Yeah. Who directed
He
some
was
other
having fun with
episodes.
the camera angles.
He directed like Heart of Glory, for instance, like that shot where Worf goes "Rah!" and all that, you know, and
From the top down.
From the top.
Oh, that
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Yeah. What was the other one he directed? He also directed the battle with Picard, where he was, the Stargazer stuff in season 1. So some good cinematography and camera work from Rob Bowman. Anyway, so he sends Data down to go deal with whatever they're dealing with in the cargo bay and the module. But on the way, he runs into Deanna Troi, who says, "Can you take me to sickbay, please?" Which is what he stops whatever he was ordered to do, and he takes Deanna to sickbay. This is the first encounter. Well, maybe not technically, because Data and Pulaski did meet briefly earlier, but this is the first real interaction between them where, she's like, she needs what did she say?
Going to need the comfort of a human touch and not the cold hand of technology.
So we see Pulaski very prejudiced against technology, artificial life forms, and all that as a medical doctor. Again, I think trying to get that Bones curmudgeon-y thing like that Bones and Spock had, but it never quite works the same way with these two. It just comes across as bigoted and mean. And...
Yes, because the difference is Spock joked back. Spock bugged him back. Like Spock did it to Bones as well. Data doesn't have that ability because he doesn't have the emotion chip, and it's like watching an adult be rude to a child.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. I think also with Spock and Bones, we never really see them meet each other or exactly how their relationship began. But I always got the feeling they've been friends, they've been colleagues for some time, and they've earned that with each other to an extent, maybe,
Yeah.
And then there's an episode where Spock loses control of his emotions. He says, "I don't like it. I don't think I ever did." Where he grabs McCoy by the throat one time. But even then, that was more tolerable. And you can still criticize even that relationship because he's calling him stupid green-blooded Vulcan and whatever. But this, isn't great. But I think that I agree with this idea that Pulaski can grow as a character, and eventually she learns to accept Data and not have these viewpoints anymore, and she can change, right? So there's an arc that she has in the season as well. She doesn't stay like this. She's not static, but it's unfortunate that she's like this as well at this point. So at the least, and so Data has been asked to serve in sort of the role of the father. Again, it was the 80s. It feels a little dated. That they need to have specifically a father in the room.
She needed, yeah.
But anyway, but Data says he'll do it, and Troy's happy to have him along. So he keeps asking her questions.
Pulaski says, "Let's get her to maternity" in the previous scene, and it's just a chair in the middle of sickbay. What if people were on those bio beds behind her? They're just
they get a hell of a view.
front and center for her just giving birth in the middle of sickbay. It's not like those doors are locked. Anyone can watch. 3 men just walk in.
I'm trying to find my wide
spread eagle.
Where's my wide shot of it doesn't. Yeah, here's the wide shot.
Yeah,
this.
Look at there's beds. Literally, her vagina is pointed at a bio bed.
It's an empty bio.
And not only is she just in stirrups, it's straight up in the middle of sick bay. Data's like, "How do you feel? What's happening now? What do you think about this? How's the baby?"
Yeah. Well, it's Data, but anyway.
And then directly after giving birth, Worf comes around to look at the baby. She's still strapped up with everything out on display, and the doctor is like, "Come have a look."
Yeah, come around and have a look. She, doesn't cover her up. Yeah.
But I have to go back to that labor. There was 20 seconds there that I was uncomfortable with her moaning and I thought it was a bit much. No,
Yeah, it was
because there was no
less of a-
pain to it. Because there was just,
It-
I guess.
yeah, it was less of a labor scene and more of a when Harry met Sally deli scene.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Marina Sirtis never actually had children in real life, so maybe this is
Well,
just,
it was not a painful birth anyway, so there
Right.
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been a regular birth scene.
So anyway, this whole scene, I feel like Worf wants to eat the baby. He's like, when do I get to eat the baby? Like, come on. It's like so appetizing, and then Pulaski's like, no, you don't get to eat the baby. It's not for you. We're saving it. Anyway, yeah. This is the under the shot. Pulaski looking up the drape,
Just
I guess.
inspecting her closely.
Looks good. In my medical opinion.
And then she's like, is this always how Betazoid births are? I'm telling you right now that if one of my doctors right after or in the middle of me giving birth went, is this how births always are? I'd be like, get out and get me a doctor who knows what
She
they're doing.
had like 36 hours to prepare, like she did have time to.
She could have read
Look
an
it up.
article. Yeah.
They don't remember the
Have to read
Federation.
it. She could just have the computer read it to her or show it on a screen in her
Yeah.
quarters.
It's not like she's it's an obscure alien species they never really deal with. The Betazoids she should be kind of up to speed on. But anyway, Riker shows up to watch, but he's kind of like watching from a distance, and Troy doesn't see it, have direct eye contact with them.
No privacy. None.
Yeah.
No.
She doesn't even know he's there. She's giving birth, doesn't even know someone's there. He doesn't even have her consent to be in the room while she's giving birth. This is wild.
Yeah. The nurse is here, and then the baby comes out. We get the shots of the baby here. Looks like a baby.
Does.
Don't know
I
what
have
else
to say, when Pulaski was like, he's beautiful, and then it cuts to the baby, I was like, no, he's not, girl.
No, this is not a good looking baby. Yeah, I was like, Worf's like, when do I get to eat? He's like, now? No. Is this dinner yet? Anyway, see the wide shot here of the stirrups again. Quite the chair. Yeah, he's like, I always, this reminded me of like even ER when they would like have all the babies born on that show ER, and they always had to take off the slime that they would made out of corn syrup or whatever.
But I do think this is good casting on the baby, because I think the baby ends up looking like the grown actors, don't you think? A little bit?
With the dark
They did a
eyes.
pretty
Yeah.
good
With
job.
the dark
Yeah.
eyes, and yeah, they did a good job of casting the baby.
Is this the Seinfeld baby? You got it. That baby's so ugly. You gotta see the baby. So Riker's all intrigued. This is the baby I should have had with you. Why didn't we have a baby? I'm so focused on my career. So she names him Ian Andrew after her father.
She's like this is not a real reaction at all. She's like, were you watching? As if she wouldn't have shanked him.
Right. Worf we go, hey Worf, it's just a baby, not an appetizer. You're done, right? Data's very entranced by the whole experience of it, and he has quite the moment here. Anyway, so then I think she sees Riker and they kind of talk here. She's happy to see him, and he's like, oh, she's so beautiful. I'm so happy for you, Deanna, etc. I don't know. You teach their own.
And then
however
he's
you wanna
like,
take this.
computer, I'm going to need one of those stirrup chairs in my quarters, please.
Oh, please. He has one.
He has one. You're right. It folds up like a Murphy bed.
It just clips to the ceiling.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hi, Brandon.
And we got, who else we got here? Brian. I always found that mustache actor to be weird. Come on, no, he's talking about
Weird and out
Sam.
of place.
No, he belongs in Starfleet. We need more guys like him in Starfleet. Anyway, so then we get some time jump here. We get Dr. Pulaski comes to the bridge, and they have like kind of this meeting here with Picard, where she's like, "Well, her body's gone completely back to normal. If I examined her now, I would never be able to tell she's even had a baby." Which, of
So
course,
she's just on the bridge with a bunch of other officers giving out medical information of one of the officers on board.
True.
Mhm.
Terrible doctor.
seems like this is a ready room meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, but because there's a security threat potentially to the ship, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but that's a closed door meeting then.
Still a closed door meeting, yeah. But I like, he's like, what are you talking about? Well, like Picard doesn't think that's weird that you couldn't tell that she's never had a baby. Now that she's had the baby.
Picard just wants to go and examine her himself.
Yeah, he's like, I'll check this out for myself.
I'll check this out.
Thank you very much. So that's exactly what he does. He goes down with Pulaski to her quarters. We get another shot here through the window of Troy's quarters. They have these side windows on either side of the door. And another Rob Bowman shot here. Anyway, but they come in and Picard's like, I'm here to see the baby. But he's not a baby anymore. He's the child now. They're like, oh my God. But like, shouldn't this be expected considering how fast the baby was born?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that weird. The weirder part was the fact that he was born in 36 hours or so. And then they're like, say hello to the captain. He's like, he can talk? What the hell? This ain't right. So there's definitely this whole like incredible reaction here from Captain Picard and Pulaski, but they're like, well, he scans completely normal. There's nothing medically wrong. This is the part where he talks and Pulaski's just closes her eyes in disbelief. Shock and awe. Anyway, so then this is the other thing I noticed in the high def version. Like this panel here on the security console, you can kind of see like the watermarks on like some of the buttons there.
Oh, on the
If you
screen.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. Those seems like that's not intentional. That's like kind of like maybe some smudges underneath the plexi or something before they put it on there. So to our earlier conversation, where they've remastered some of the digital effects or the space effects, I suppose, but some of this kind of stuff does show through more so.
It's always interesting watching these old episodes when you watch them on a high def TV because you can just see so many things that they would take care of now, especially like makeup streaks and stuff like that, where it's stuff you don't see anymore, but you can see it because they didn't have to worry about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, even sometimes you can see like the glue on Michael Dorn's head,
Yeah.
that no way we would have noticed that watching it on television.
Every
back in
now
the
and
time.
then, because it's in a different aspect ratio now, you see like a boom mic and stuff,
Right.
or the very edge of the set piece.
Yeah, like we'll point those out when they come up. So is this when they're starting? Oh, this is when they're getting ready to beam up the samples, and this is the whole data of it all. Pulaski is so mean to Data. Just to throw that quote in here, where is it?
Data, look at this.
Data.
What?
My name. It is pronounced Data.
Oh?
You called me Data.
What's the difference?
One is my name. The other is not.
Yeah,
I love that. That's so good. One is my name. The other is not. Bitch.
But then she gets up and does that fake scanning him to see if he has the bruised feelings or whatever. But like, if she had come on board and someone called her by the wrong name and she was like, that's not my name, and they were like, I don't care, why are you so butthurt, she would have gone to the captain. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. She's
With all your neural nets, algorithms, and heuristics, is there some combination that makes up a circuit for bruised feelings?
I think it's like she doesn't accept him as a life form yet, right? Like she thinks of him more like a tricorder or something like along those lines, right? And so a tool, and so there's I don't know, that's her point of view. It's not right, but it's she's Data is sort of one of a kind,
but
in some ways.
This is Star Trek. We should be beyond treating what you would consider lesser life beings worse.
True.
They're not. They're supposed to be beyond that. Why? How is she in Starfleet if she views him as lesser and still treats him that way? That's not. That's not their motto. Like, that's not what they do.
you know, we'll see, like, even in the episode The Measure of a Man, which comes later this season, that, like, even his status as a sentient being and the right to make his own decisions, that hasn't even, like, been fully legally defined yet, right, within their society. You know, he was declared sentient, he was allowed to go to Starfleet Academy, get a commission, but on the other hand, he's still kind of in this gray area legally, it feels like, maybe in some viewpoints in society, too. And so making him more
which doesn't really track either, because if I remember correctly, Data has been activated for 27 years at the start of Next Generation. So like none of this ever came up before.
Yeah, he's a toaster to Pulaski.
Mm-hmm.
And Janeway also had her issues with the Doctor. And the Doctor is arguably less of a sentient being than Data, because he's more software based. Like Data has a physical neural brain, like positronic brain, and there's more simulacra in the Doctor or other holograms, for instance. My layman's understanding of how they are technologically, but you know, but everything we see from the Doctor lets us believe he's just like you and me, right? Anyway, but anyway, so they continue with their whole infectious virus discussion here. What they're going to do. Trying to remember where this goes. Oh yeah, she goes Data. Oh, whatever. And she rolls her eyes. Like, come on, you're not this dumb. Like,
Yeah.
You know, do you always say data? Is that just the way you like to say that word? You know.
That goes along with sensors, which they also say in this episode.
Right. You know, maybe that's just the way she says that word, but that's not his name. But, you know,
That's how Spock always said it.
Data.
That's why all the Vulcans
Sensors.
always say sensors, because that's
Sensors.
how Leonard Nimoy said it in the original series. He always said sensors. And now, like every actor that does, the Vulcans all seem to say sensors because Leonard Nimoy did.
That's good. I didn't realize that, but
Oh yeah, I notice it immediately every single time I watch original series.
have you ever played with puppies?
More puppy.
Is Poppy thinking that do people on the ship have dogs? Like, do they walk their dogs along the hallway? You never see that.
Hallway or
Like along the,
you could
you
take
have-
them to a park in the holodecks.
The arboretum. We never get to see the full extent of the arboretum, but we're led to believe it's actually quite large. So I think there is kind of a park on the ship, but we never quite get to see it. Not
I think Guinan lets people bring their pets to 10 Forward.
I think Guinan would love pets.
She would.
Yeah.
Geordi does, maybe.
Someone's got to have a dog. I mean, Captain Archer had a dog.
That's true.
Yeah, and
that's
Data
true.
has Spot.
Yeah, Spot.
Yeah. Of course, we see Ian has grown yet again. He is now closer to, I don't know, like 10, 11, maybe, at this point. I don't know if he actually ages beyond this point in the episode. But, you know, he's happy with the puppies, and they say goodbye to I guess this is the puppy wrangler woman. Or this is the nursery school.
Okay, so this is Miss Gladstone, and I didn't look her up, but I'm pretty sure it's the same actor who played Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner in Kindergarten Cop.
Is it?
I think it is.
Dawn Eminem? Because I loved Kindergarten Cop. Oh my god, if she's that same person, I didn't pick up on that at all. Anyway.
But in this shot back there, I thought they should have put him in floods. I think that would have been funny after she said he'd grown well in there. And if his pants were like...
Yes, if his pants were too short.
That would have been funny.
And his cuffs were just a little bit up.
Yeah. A little too long or too short.
It says she was on Sybil. And a couple of, she's not the same one from Kindergarten Cop, but
it does kind of look like her though.
It does though. Hey, maybe it's like the 80s haircut and the pencil thin eyebrows.
Yeah.
Well, and she has a very similar like nose structure and stuff.
But the other thing I thought was notable here is that she only has the one hollow pip, indicating she's not like a full officer or something. That's like the first time I've seen this used. Like Chief O'Brien will adopt this only once he goes to Deep Space Nine, not before.
And Troy called her Miss Gladstone. She didn't call her a rank either. She called her Miss Gladstone.
Right.
Yeah, well, she just seems to be like the ECE or whatever. Like she's the nursery,
the
one
puppy
who runs
liaison.
the nursery.
Yeah. So speaking of O'Brien, he's back.
Two pips.
Got
Two
two
full
pips.
pips.
2 full pips. This will change up and down with his pips and everything else throughout time. But they bring him back, but he has no lines. He just like works the transporter here. But they kept finding ways to bring Colmini back because they're beaming up all these plasma
Does he have a
samples.
name yet? Like O'Brien?
No, he doesn't
No,
have a
he
name.
doesn't have a
yet.
name yet. No.
No.
Okay.
He's been seen like 3 or 4 times at this point, but I don't know when exactly he'll get named, but we'll call that when he does. Anyway, so they're beaming up the dangerous plasma plague. That seems all to be going well. Of course, everything inside this device is very dangerous to people.
Can we talk about this guy's toupee on this shot right now, please?
Are you sure it's a toupee?
Oh, it looks like a toupee.
Yes.
It looks like a backwards toupee.
That's I think it's great natural hair. Who knows?
Do you think so?
No. Well, okay, no, he did. Okay, like if you look at this actor in real life, he had a full head of hair. He wasn't bald.
Oh,
Or maybe. So I'm
maybe I'm mistaken.
Maybe it
don't
is
know.
though.
It
does.
Maybe
It does look fake.
it's just poorly styled.
Yeah.
And so so they're beaming more of this in. He's using that radiation meter. Anyway, then we go back to Ian, who's playing with blocks in his quarters with Counselor Troy.
He's a little old to be playing with blocks.
Well, he is. He should be moving on to some real toys. Playing.
He wasn't when he started playing with them.
So they come to see Ian along with Captain Picard and Pulaski. This is where Picard's like, I don't play with puppies.
I don't think I've played with puppies.
I don't think I played with puppies.
Oh.
Tells you something about
That's so
Picard.
sad. Get the captain a puppy.
Yeah.
Oh, once he moves into Chateau Picard, he ends up with a dog.
That's true.
He
And he
does.
names him number 1.
Number 1. That's so sweet.
Yeah. He speaks French to him only, which is the other fun part, except for the number 1 part. Numero 1. Anyway, so then he intentionally burns himself in the soup here. Ow, 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 ow. Which, good thing there's a doctor present to treat the wound, which they immediately then pick up on here. Oh yeah, why is my face wet? He starts crying. Another experience he hasn't had.
Then he wipes his soup fingies all over his tear face. Ugh.
Yeah. Who told you to stick your hand in the soup? That's not how soup works.
The crazy thing is she goes like it's out of nowhere and no child has ever done this. She goes, he intentionally burned himself. Yeah, kids do that shit all the time because they don't know. It's not like he knew the soup was going to burn him.
Yeah.
Kids always stick their fingers places they shouldn't go.
This is true.
That's normal child development. What kind of medical degree does this woman have?
She wasn't at top of her class. Let's say that,
Then why is she on the Enterprise?
C's and D's get degrees, You want a substitute teacher or a substitute doctor? This is what you get. Anyway,
Maybe she's Section 31 posing as a doctor on the Enterprise, and she actually doesn't know shit about medicine.
There is this confrontation here where Picard's like, tell us why you're here. We know you're a weird alien or something. Come on. And he's like, no, I'm not dishing on that yet. I'm not telling you nothing. Which Picard's like, I don't know how to deal with these kids. I'm used to be able to give them orders and tell them what I want.
This kid did
Now, if
a
he
good
got
job
him
acting, though.
If he got him singing in a round, if he taught him a little Frere Jacques, he might have gotten the answers he needed.
True. I think that he, he just you got to find the right way with Picard and the kids. Anyway, then we get this other shot here too of 10 Forward, where we actually kind of see like the top of the outside the saucer section here. I guess where the different component. I thought this was really neat. I don't remember seeing this at all in the original version.
No.
As it kind of pans down, and then we see the windows, the outside of windows of 10 Forward.
Yeah.
I think this was added.
good.
Had to have been
No,
added.
I think
enhanced.
this was in it.
Yeah.
Maybe this
Yeah,
first part
there's-
was added. I don't know, but like these different
Yeah,
components.
because this could have been added by computers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. No, I don't. It's
hard
hard
to
to
tell.
know now that it's all like we all stream these. I don't own these. I don't own like the original airing VHSs or anything.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know.
I don't know anymore. It's hard to get those old copies. But then we get this whole conversation here with Guinan and Wesley, and this is first time Guinan speaks, you know, and Will Wheaton's talked about, like, you know, he was kind of the first actor on the cast that got to really work with her, you know, and that they really, I think they have a good dynamic, you know, in this scene and in this episode. As they're talking about him leaving the Enterprise, he has to, you know, he doesn't want to leave, but he has to do what's expected of him. Do you always do what's expected of you? He tries to always put himself, others before himself. And she goes, sometimes the game is putting yourself before others. Just saying, right? Because she keeps offering him like souffles or whatever.
Also, she lies right to his face.
She
In
does.
this scene, he
about?
asks about Picard, and she goes, "I never met him before
Until I
joined
came
the-
aboard.
Until I came
Yeah.
aboard." What a lie!
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's later when they're sitting together
Oh,
and
was it
chatting
later?
at the
Okay.
bar.
I just
I
remember
made
when
note
it
of that
was-
as well.
Yeah,
I
I just
was like,
remember when it
did-
was her.
Yeah, that comes
Luke
later, but
talking,
yeah. But
I was
it's
like,
kind of-
did she straight up lie to him, or is that a continuity error, or is she just being mysterious?
Well, she can't actually tell Picard that she's met him before. She has to act until he hits that point in his timeline that he meets the younger Guinan. So she has to be mysterious. And at this point, she didn't know that they had already, like, I hadn't written any of that
Hadn't
stuff.
written any of
But
that yet,
it just
right?
makes me laugh every time I see something where they say something and I go, "Oh, that's not true." We find that out later in another season or another series or whatever.
I also love this shot as we're looking through the 10 Forward windows as they go to warp, and you know, you get to see all this streaking coming along right here. This is so cool. You know, they do it a
That
few more
was really
times on the
cool.
show, but I always love it. And then, you know, it transitions into the like the stars. You know, as we're used to the ships going at warp.
I just thought that scene was so lovely, and the way that Guinan spoke to him as a peer when he's often treated and dismissed as a child, as we've seen in the first season a lot, you know. And I also I think it's surely because I followed Will Wheaton online for years and know what he was going through personally at the time that they were filming this, but to see her ask, "Do you always do what's expected of you?" and him to say, "Yes, I try to," like, I found that very poignant.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that like you know, the episode's called The Child, which obviously seems to be about Ian, but I think there's this dichotomy to the story where it's also kind of about Wesley. And what his decision to want to stay and to speak up for himself, and the fact that, like, at the end they're like, who's going to tuck him in at night and who's going to read him bedtime stories, and you know, because they still do see him as a kid, as a child in many ways, right? Like they're coming to accept him as an adult slowly.
But they think he still needs to be tucked in and read stories, but they let him fly the ship. Like, it doesn't make any sense. If they see him as that much of a child, then why are you letting him fly the ship?
I don't got an answer for you there. And so anyway, they're back down in the cargo bay with the samples of the plasma. They figure out that there's a problem, that there's a growth in one of the samples, and they need to figure it out right away, that this is a major
There's
problem.
a malfunction in the containment field. No one saw that one coming.
Yeah, call to Picard, and they're like, this is good. This is very bad, very bad. So there's another transition.
You mean when you play around with viruses, sometimes they get out?
Sometimes.
Who knew?
Who knew? I don't know. There's no historical context for this. So, Anyway, this is the later scene here with Guinan and Wesley. Now at the bar, as he's having some souffle, and they're having this chat where he's getting to know her more. Right? They say all these things about you. They say you're from this weird planet. They say you know Captain Picard on the Stargazer. And she does lie about some of it. Although she doesn't really answer most of the questions. She keeps this whole mysterious vibe going here. But I think it's a really great the first scene with them at the window, and then this scene as sort of the capper to it later. I think it really works. I think that obviously Whoopi Goldberg, very talented, obviously, and Will Wheaton really shines. As for much for a character as I'm annoyed by sometimes when they write him badly, here they write him quite well, and he acts it quite well. So
Clearly, she is going to tuck him in at night and tell him bedtime stories. Like she's taken on that mother role for him.
Yeah. Back down in the cargo bay, they're dealing with the samples, and this radiation is growing the thing. Pulaski shows up, and she's like, "Destroy it right now. We can't." They can't even leave it in space because in space,
just eject it into space.
But apparently, he says you can't do that because then it will find a planet or a ship. I'm like, it will? Like,
throw it into the sun or something.
Yeah, it seems like you could launch it into the sun, or you could tractor
let
beam
Worf
it.
shoot a photon torpedo at it. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Don't let Worf into the cargo bay. My God. It's dangerous for Worf in cargo bays.
It's true.
It seems like it's beyond even any of the technologies they have. Like this, whatever this disease is, this thing. It's so beyond. Like they can keep it contained within these small little samples as long as they're not growing. But once it starts to grow, they got a big problem. And it will go right through Geordi's his little device. He goes, no, it can't go through this.
No, it can't break through this.
Oh, it will, he says. And it's gonna. 30 minutes it's out. In 2 hours we're all dead. If we don't do something. Riker's line here is great,
Your attitude tells me that no matter how bad I think it is, it's actually worse.
Yes!
It's good to know that 300 years in the future, we still can't keep viruses contained.
Yeah. Even with all this stuff, they don't even want to move this, but they have to help these people who are having this plague on this particular planet, so they need to move it there. There's no other way.
And why has no one put a mask or something on? Like, if this thing is growing and is gonna leak out in any minute, put some protective gear on.
Plasma plague. Yeah, I like.
Northern is misspelled. I always look for typos on these, and it's very rare to find one. So I'm pleased about that.
On the Norhaten continent.
Wow.
And the episode is only on screen for a second, but
yeah, exactly. If you go back one frame, these are the directors and producers' names under research associates, which they do quite often.
Oh yeah, they do that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, they love to throw their own
It's
names
like on medical shows
like
when they're calling doctors over the intercoms and stuff on medical shows, it's always cast members.
Right.
Cast and crew, yeah.
Yeah, so there's many strains that they're carrying. This particular strain has not been really dealt with for 80 years, we're told of, and then they don't know a ton about it. They have to look it up, what even grows it, and there's like this weird, unique radiation that's so rare, and nothing on the ship should be producing it, but there is. This old
that's quite the device.
Yeah,
this thing is something else.
It was the 80s. We didn't know.
This looks like they're trying to install it into a DeLorean.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a piece of Starfleet tech at all. With all these like analog
Battlestar Galactica.
It looks like the little football game is going to show up, like the
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, they got to find it and fast, and then it cuts right to Ian, and we're as the audience, we're like, oh, it's him. And it seems obvious that the weird alien that impregnated your counselor and was born and is already 10 years old, he's a likely suspect, but their minds just don't go there right away. So the other thing I like too is that Deanna lowers the screen on the window here for Ian as he's going to bed. We never saw that too many times on the show, but this is how they can kind of make it darker at night. And he says, "Oh, it's me, mommy. I'm the reason that the bad things are happening. If I stay, it's gonna be very bad." So she goes, "What? No!" And he's basically gonna kill himself, or he's gonna die. Self kill us. She has like this real panic moment. She calls medical emergency. The doctor come right away, and they all show up and he's the radiation. She tries to say Pulaski tries the best, but we've already established her medical abilities might be suspect, and she cannot do anything to save the boy. Tries to hypo, tries to touch his neck, and that's it. So Marina Sirtis kills it, I think, in the episode. Her reaction and her emotion and everything else really strong. And then we see Ian kind of becomes one with the stars as he turns into...
That effect looks terrible. No amount of remastering can save that.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
He turned it into a sparkly guy. Turns back
And also, what is this pillowcase? Is it made of cellophane? What is happening?
Yeah.
I always think that about the blankets too. Like, why are the blankets sequined, and they also seem like there's some kind of like satin material on one side? Like, they seem like an absolute sensory nightmare.
Yeah, I guess just make it look more futuristic,
And not at all warm.
No,
Like, why are you
anything,
just
like
sleeping
that pillow
under a... Yeah.
would be very warm on your face, as all the moisture on your face would just sweat onto this pillow. But,
Terrible.
yeah, that's not great. Anyway, Ian, and then now back into his energy form, flies over into Deanna's hands, and they have sort of like this conversation, this empathic communication, where at one point she smiles, and then he flies off and leaves the ship, and she says goodbye. Sad. It's so sad. And Breaker's like, you smiled for 1 second. He's, she kind of explains that he wanted to he was curious about us. He wanted to kind of live that experience of humanity. He thought the best way was to, be born and to live as one of us and experience things, and that's what he did. Now it feels like he could have gone onto a shuttle. They could have taken him off the ship, but he killed himself before that was an option.
I don't think he ever planned to stay a human. I think he probably would have grown to adulthood and then gone, okay, I've experienced, or even to natural old age death within like a week or 10 days or whatever, and then been like, okay, I've experienced humanity from conception essentially to death, and then he understands them.
I'm doing like the fast forward version of human experience.
But then when he realized that he was putting them in danger, he was like, I need to leave this ship.
Yeah. So he was like, okay, this is over. But
can we just talk about how Troy is there crying, and the only child she's ever had dies, and all the other people just like look at her and turn around and leave. Wordlessly.
No hugs.
Yeah.
No nothing.
Yeah.
No hugs. No one even hugs Troy. Just leave her alone to cry, you monster.
It's true, yeah.
I would expect that of Pulaski and Data, but come on, Riker.
Right?
But he doesn't do anything. Then they get to the starbase and they beam over the samples. They're happy to get this cargo off the ship. And then Wesley stops Picard as he's heading to the ready room to say, I'd like to talk to you. He's like, what's your duties permit? In between here...
I hate that outfit. I hate that gray. I absolutely... hate it. I hate what they did with the pants. I hate it's all every single time. I don't mind like from the waist up, but every time you get a full body shot of the pants, especially the back where it's like split, it's terrible.
I like from the waist up as well. Now, he's wearing like that one of those muscle suits underneath as well.
Yes.
Which is making him like his shoulders look all big. And I don't know, like that's not his choice, but
I don't know why they decided on that design for the pants, but they're awful. It's awful. I would give me a Jake Sisko jumpsuit over that any day.
How did he go to the
We
bathroom
love a
in that
Jake
thing?
Sisko jumpsuit.
Oh, Jake Sisko jumpsuits are classic.
Would you rather see the sweater, Ashley?
I would rather see the sweater.
have.
I actually like the sweater.
The sweaters are great. He had a lot of really great sweaters.
One day I am going to knit myself the sweater.
Nice. I know I have some of that here. Wesley, Chris. It's sort of like a sweater. Oh.
It's sort of like your favorite sweater.
Yeah. Anyway, then they're talking to Lieutenant Commander Delt here, Hester Delt, with Geordi, and he's like, "Are you gonna be able to make a vaccine?" He's like, "We might never make a vaccine, but we're gonna try." Anyway, see ya. I don't know. I find his whole vibe to be very charming. He's just kind of like, I don't know, we're going along.
Yeah, he's like, you mean we did all this for nothing? I guess.
Maybe, probably. So good chance. Anyway, peace. And he leaves. I was like, I need this character back. Where did he go? I was just like, anyway. And then the final scene here with Wesley and Picard, where in the ready room, where he's like, "Hey, I'd like to stay on the Enterprise, sir." And Picard's like, "This is serious. I'm going to turn off my notes." And I don't know. I can't remember all the conversation here. He's just like, "What do you mean you want to stay? Have you talked to your mother?" He's like, "I wanted to talk to you before I asked her," which kind of makes sense.
And also, she abandoned me here, so she probably doesn't care if I stay here
for an indeterminate amount of time. We don't know exactly how long she's been gone. It can't be that long because Pulaski just got here. But anyway, so then he says, "Okay, I'm going to think about it. Peace out." And then I guess Picard thinks about it, even though clearly this is what Picard wanted anyway. I don't know.
She doesn't trust Picard enough to tell him about their kid together, but is totally fine with leaving her kid there alone with him while he does a dangerous virus mission.
Dr. Crusher's priorities are somewhat inconsistent, I would say, in the way she looks at things. Anyway, Deanna shows up on the bridge. She's all smiles now. She's, I guess, got over losing her kid, even though it was only for a day. But and then Picard's like, "Hey, Wesley wants to stay, but what do you think of that?" And everyone's smiling, everyone's happy. And he's like, "Come on, Commander." Okay, who's gonna tuck him in at night? I know I got that quote here.
Worf is still mad he didn't get to eat a baby.
Yeah. And who will tuck him in at night?
Come on, Commander.
I will accept that responsibility.
Well, we know he'll get his sleep.
We know he'll get his... Whatever.
What does that mean?
What a strange ending.
It's a weird, they're still trying to do like these original series kind of, every episode has to end with a joke, I guess, or some kind of funny, lighthearted moment. And so, they haven't quite got out of that. But then they're like, well, who's going to be Wesley's teacher? That will be Data. Worf's going to tuck him in at night. Riker's going to make sure he does something. I don't know. And it's all kind of unclear to me, but, what is Will Wheaton 18 at this point?
I don't know. What does he get for quarters? Technically, he's a lower decker, right? But he would have stayed in the same quarters as his mom, who would have had very nice quarters, being the ship's doctor. And then, so what does he get now? Does he get bunks? Is he sleeping in a hallway?
I don't know if we ever see his quarters again. So anyway,
I wonder.
At this point, he was 16 years old. Okay. And I think his character's roughly about the same age. So, I don't know. But with that muscle suit on under it, he looks so much older.
Look at that position.
This is great. Look at Frakes in that frame.
Frakes and Captain Picard. Just look at those. They're absolute beasts.
Smiles for miles.
Just
completely
specimens.
Different. Yeah, just completely different body language, and just I would take both of them to Ryza.
Yeah.
Jamaharan. Anyway,
Wesley can stay on the Enterprise. We'll go to Ryza.
He's too young for me.
He's too young.
Sometimes when Wesley gives that certain smile, you're like, oh yeah, you are a kid. Right. Okay. Yeah. But only sometimes. Anyway, they're saying engage Wesley, and so Wesley's staying. If anyone was worried he was leaving the show, which I guess maybe some people were back when this first aired.
I really like that the last shot is of him smiling and a promising future ahead. I thought that's very nice for the character. That's great.
Yeah, that was good.
Get it, Wesley.
So, overall, hey, this is quite the episode, I think. Let's just talk some trivia and some fun facts. Anything we might not know about this episode so far. This episode marks the first appearance of Worf's silver baldric. Of course, he's wearing now the gold uniform, so
and his new forehead.
And his new forehead too, which he would keep throughout the remainder of the show, and in Deep Space Nine. His previous gold fabric baldric was one type worn by Klingon commanders in the classic Star Trek series. The episode also shows that Worf is now the official permanent security chief, which we touched on. Jonathan Frakes, showed up at rehearsals with the beard, and they told him to keep it. He only
Best
shaved
decision
it.
Star Trek's ever made.
He eventually shaved it off in Star Trek Insurrection, and even Deanna Troi didn't like it. She said yuck with the kissing with the beard. That's what led to it. But this was Marina Sirtis's least favorite episode. So she kills it in the episode, I think, but I don't know.
I think it was an interesting story for her. I think overall it was an interesting story because it felt like such a Star Trek episode, because really, like, we're seeing it from our perspective, but it was the alien that was doing the exploring. So it was interesting to see it from the other perspective.
Wow.
As Norman had mentioned, the script for this episode was one of 3 originally written for the Star Trek Phase 2 show that never happened. It was going to be like in the late 70s. Eventually became Star Trek The Motion Picture. In the original script, a being of light impregnates Lieutenant Elia to experience life as a Deltan. Lieutenant Elia's character from this defunct series went on to appear in the motion picture based on that, in the V'ger and all that stuff. The third story was called Devil's Due, and elements of it were later used in Devil's Due, which is the one with...
I love that episode.
Yeah, like where that woman pretends to be the devil.
Ardra?
Ardra.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good episode.
Yeah, and of course...
I actually watched that one yesterday.
Yeah. There seems to be some thematic similarities to Anton de Saint... how do you say that? Anton de Saint... Exupery novella, The Little Prince, where a powerful alien being comes to Earth to learn about its people, assuming a childlike form with paranormal abilities. He fears that there will be no one welcome to him and departs the planet in another form so that his human child self appears to die. And when Data is holding Deanna's hand during the delivering scene, you can see the gold makeup on Data's fingers has been worn off. I didn't pick up on that either. All right. Well, let's rate this episode, everybody, and figure out what our scores are. Now, Sam is saying 5.5, guys. Let's throw it in there. What do we think? Heather, let's throw you up.
I'm going to give it a 6.5. It's not my favorite episode, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. The first time we see Guinan, Marina Sirtis gets to flex her acting chops a bunch, and puppies are fun. And the maternity bathrobe and the mid sick bay stirrup chair are fun things. I don't think it's like the best season opener, but
I don't think it was meant to be a season opener.
Well, originally it was this script from this other show, and then they had to then write Crusher out, Pulaski into the story. And
let's remember the season closer for season 1. They weren't really doing the epic to be continued yet. That really didn't start until later on in TNG. The first couple of seasons, they just ended on random episodes and began on random episodes.
And just to look back at our most previous podcast where we talked about the Neutral Zone, the season 1 finale, everyone on that was like, oh, it's not the best finale for the season. Wait till we get to the end of this season. And we'll talk about a season finale.
Yeah. Well,
it makes the Neutral Zone.
Sometimes shows run out of money.
There's a writer's strike. And things happen. All right. But Ashley, what do you want to give this one?
If this episode had Crusher, I would have given it an 8. But because it has Pulaski, it gets a 7 for me.
Okay. Norman's given it a 4.5. Never been the biggest fan. I know Jody was definitely criticizing. Davin gave it a 7. He liked it more on the rewatch. Jane, where are you at?
I would have said 5 until rewatching it, like, really sitting down and watching it today. And it brought it up to 7 because just all the firsts and the establishing it all, yeah.
But when you
It's
get
better
over
than
it,
I
like,
had remembered.
the reason that most people don't like it is because they don't like Deanna Troi. And I can see why people don't like Deanna Troi, but everyone is always hard on the episodes that center around Deanna Troi. The reason that I always loved this growing up and loved this episode as a kid was because we didn't get very many of the female character centric episodes. The original series was all men centric, like they were all Kirk centric episodes, and most of the cast of TNG is men, and you don't get a lot of those female centric episodes where you can see stuff. And seeing it was such the interesting story. Like when you think about the story as opposed to just, oh, it was a terrible opener or it was too much Troy. When you think about the story, it's a kind of a heartbreaking story, and it's an interesting story for Star Trek.
Yeah,
I'd like to see this
Deanna Troi.
redone. I think if we did it in modern day, what the differences would be. That'd be an interesting thing to see.
I'm going the high point today. I'm going 7.5. I'm not going crazy high. I think it's weird that she's impregnated up the blanket and all that stuff. But like beyond that, that's like one of my bigger criticisms. Pulaski, like, I don't like the way she treats Data, but I do like that there's this arc to her character and there's this friction and the more.
Yeah, but we haven't seen that yet.
But I know it's coming, so I'm willing to forgive it. More so than I might on the first watch, right? So anyway, so we're averaging a 7 out of 10 tonight. This has a 5.8 on IMDb, so it is much lower compared to like the episodes that will come after this. And I
something
think,
that I'm really enjoying watching in this context, watching episodes with more of a critical eye as opposed to just watching for fun. I've been realizing over the last few years, engaging with a lot of different Star Trek discourse online and with this group of people, that when I was young and getting into Star Trek, everyone I knew who watched it and who liked it was guys, boys and men. And a lot of the prevailing attitude was Troy episodes suck, Crusher episodes suck, anything to do. So I'm finding myself unlearning that. Do I not like this because it's a Troy episode? Because that's like how I got into Star Trek, like this is a perfectly good episode. It's not the best episode ever, but that's not because it's Troy centric. It is a really interesting story.
right. That's often the Jody vibe,
that.
where he's like,
and then for me, and the thing that I keep arguing too is everyone always blasts the kind of cheesy episodes, the ones that are silly, that have kind of like ridiculous storylines. But to me, that's Star Trek. If I just want to watch the courtroom dramas, why do I need to watch them in Star Trek uniforms? I can watch Law and Order.
Yeah.
Like those episodes exist in other TV shows. I like Star Trek. I like the silliness of Star Trek. I enjoy. That's why everyone complains about, Discovery being too serious all the time. But then they also complain about the silly episode. They complain about the move along homes. But those are the fun ones.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Star Trek, even in a given season, can be very varied. I prefer like the diversity in the stories. You can have a morality play. You can just have an out there science fiction concept.
Yeah.
You can have sort of a bottle episode where you're just focusing on the characters. And there's all those things. Or you get something like Best of Both Worlds, which is like a thriller epic, sort of thing. And so I think they all complement each other at the end of the day, more so than
I
take
agree.
away from each other.
You get like Deep Space Nine, you get a super serious war episode, and then the next episode is Odo and
Quark climbing a
Quark
mountain.
climbing a mountain.
Yeah, how much they hate each other. So
Right in the middle of the Dominion War arc, let's go do a heist in the holodeck.
Let's go do it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Eat it up.
What did you say? Jack saying, what are you talking about? She was one of the sexiest people of her time. I think talking about Deanna. She did interviews about how strange that was for her. Well, hey,
Yeah.
Deanna Troi, I would be lying if I wouldn't say she was an early crush, because she definitely was for me. So anyway, that's The Child, everybody. It took us an hour and a half to talk about this. We really, I think the ones that go long like this always indicate to me we generally liked it, because there were so many things to touch upon.
Talk about it. Yeah.
If it's bad, we're kind of done in 45 minutes usually. So, so take that for what it is. It's not like the greatest episode ever, but I think it's totally serviceable and decent and worth rewatching. So we'll be back next week to talk about episode 2 of season 2. It's called Where Silence Has Lease. It's with that Nagulum guy, like that weird face in the nebula that's like, making the guy go, and all that.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that one at all.
You'll remember. Yeah, you'll remember it.
So we have Davin and Jaemeel coming on next week. We're still looking for our third panelist for next one, so we'll figure that out. And look out, we'll be talking about more of season 2 and beyond as we continue our journey to watch every episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation and talk about it. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Make sure to check out all our great content here on the channel. Saturday, we're going to be back to talk about Star Trek Section 31. I am on with Heather and Adam and Jody and Justin. All of us coming together to talk about the new film.
Oh, have fun.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I'm just saying, but okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to go in with an open mind.
You have people on there that very much dislike Discovery and don't know the whole story of that, so that should be interesting.
It should. Well, as I said, because Jody's like, I want to be there, and I was like, why? You hate Discovery?
Yeah.
He goes, but I like Section 31. I was like, okay, so
it's okay. I'll keep him in line. I'll shout him down when he starts getting sassy.
Someone will have to. So anyway, and then of course we'll be back on Monday to talk about our next episode of the Orville, which will be Gently Falling Rain, with the episode from season 3. Really good episode. Can't wait to be revisiting that one from the show. And we just did our Star Trek Radio Theater. Go listen to the live version. The edited version still in the works, but we will have that out, probably soon. It's in Justin's hands. He's working on it. So with all that said, guys, thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks to this panel. Really loved having you here. Jane, Heather, and Ashley. And we will see you next time. And what's a good one to go out on here?
R.I.P. Ian Andrew Troy.
Yeah. Okay. You'll see you next time.
Don't you always do what's expected? I try, even if it's not what you really want. Sometimes it's more important to consider others before yourself. Yes, but sometimes the game is to know when to consider yourself before others. Give yourself permission to be selfish.
See you next time.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.